You need a any Word document, because this is practice for you. Because what do you have tomorrow? You have a timed writing, which means today we're going to get a little practice in, and we're doing some speed drills. So from now on, by the way, your desks are not bolted to the ground. Please move them however you need to be able to see the board. Today, when we're doing speed drills, there will not be any warning about whether you're going to get rhetorical analysis or argument, because you have to be flexible enough that you can handle whatever gets thrown at you, and you can switch from one style of writing to another very quickly. I will not put any DDQs in here, because that synthesis document-based question, it's just an argument. The difference is they give you the readings. And on speed drills, we're not going to stop to read the readings on a DBQ. That sort of defeats the purpose of a speed drill. So here is your first prompt. Dr. Eleanor Longden is the postdoctoral service user research manager, at Psychosis Research Unit and the current chair of its service user reference group. Throughout her career, she's drawn on her own experience of recovery from psychosis to promote more creative, person-centered approaches to complex mental health problems that emphasize the lived experience and expertise of individuals more fully, and has an extensive track record of promoting user-informed perspectives on conceptualizing and responding to psychosis. In 2015, she was commended for this work with a Deputy Prime Minister's Mental Health Hero Award. Good for her. This will almost always be up front. It gives you a context. It tells you who you're writing about. It gives you a sense of who the author is, so that if you are not familiar with the author, you are not just like confused and left dangling. Her speech, Voices in My Head, has been viewed by millions. Write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical choices Longden makes to convey her message about society and mental health. Out of all of the blah blahs that you have on that page, this is the sentence that you have to find. It's your prompt. Is this argument or rhetorical analysis? When you're doing rhetorical analysis, they will almost always tell you what part of the message they want you to focus on. What do you have to write about? Yes. You cannot write about her personal journey of mental health, because that will be graded as off topic. They are asking you specifically to focus on society and mental health. So that does force you into their path. You can't just write about anything. Now, they will give you a bullet list down below. So let's take a look. Respond to the prompt of the thesis that analyzes the writer's rhetorical choices. Is that new, or is that a no-duh? Yeah, y'all already know you have to have a thesis. Select evidence to support your line of reasoning. Do you know how to do that? Explain how the evidence supports your line of reasoning. What do we call that in here? Just commentary. Demonstrate an understanding of the rhetorical situation. How does the speaker appeal to the audience to push a message? What is the context in which that message exists? And how does the writer make themselves sound important for the listener important for the reader to listen to, which we call exigence. Do y'all know the rhetorical situation stuff? Yes. And use appropriate grammar and punctuation. That would be helpful. Yes. Is there anything in their expectations that you do not know how to do? Then the only thing we have to practice is, can you do it when you are timed? So, because this is a rhetorical analysis, again, find your prompt. And because it's a rhetorical analysis, you still get your 30 seconds of panic time if you need it. But when you are brainstorming, you need to be opening up Voices in My Head, and you need to be looking at what choices did she make. Write down every choice you see before you choose how many? Two to write about. What I would expect to see during your brainstorming time, your first 5 minutes, I want a good, clear, complete thesis. And down below, leave yourself a trail of breadcrumbs. What rhetorical choices are you planning on going for? Just write down the choice so that you don't lose track of your thinking as you're writing. You have 5 minutes on the timer. On your mark, get set, go. Okay, how'd you guys do? You have an outline? You have something you think you could turn into an essay? Then let's talk about intros for rhetorical analysis. Because you definitely don't want to be pulling out a philosopher and using a different author in a rhetorical analysis essay. Because a rhetorical analysis essay is supposed to focus on the author being analyzed. So the only author that should be referenced in a rhetorical analysis about Longden's speech should be Longden. So what would an intro look like? I pulled this one from an old AP test, and wow, how happy are we that we no longer have to handwrite AP?
So
Yes, because reading these is not fun. The Civil War, a war fought during the 1860s, decided a great many things. Slavery or freedom, South and North or unification. By the way, this is a rhetorical device called balanced pairs. And the author right up front is showing off. They're like, in case I forget later, I am going to throw some really powerful rhetoric right up front so that I make a good first impression, and so that if I get head down in my content and forget it later, I know it is already there. So the kid made a good choice there. This kid, by the way, got a very high score on this, even though we're going to look at the fact that he did make a significant mistake. But he got a very good score. In the beginning of the war, the Northern African Americans were not allowed to join the Union Army and fight against the Southern oppressors. Alfred M. Greene White, giving a speech in Philadelphia at the beginning of the war, urged African Americans to prepare to enlist. He also spoke subversively, about the unfairness of the treatment of African Americans, not only in the South, but also in the North. Greene uses a variety of methods to persuade his fellow African Americans to prepare for war, while also speaking out against the treatment of African Americans in the North. So his thesis is a little too generic. He says a variety of methods, where he should give you 2 specific methods. But if you read the paper, the first one is shared values between the African American and mainstream culture. The second one is diction. So the very fact that his paper itself is clear enough that I can immediately identify it, that's why he got forgiven for the thesis, although can we agree the thesis is not ideal? Yeah, they don't expect perfection. They just expect really good. So let's talk about this intro because it has 3 parts. Part 1 is the first 2 sentences. What do you see in the first 2 sentences? Yeah, the general topic, the general context. What is the context in which this piece is being written? What is the history? What is the conflict? What are the ideas? What is the big societal picture that's being addressed? Part 2 is the next 1 or 2 sentences. Yeah, how introducing this author. How does this author fit into that big picture? Does this author challenge that big picture? Does this author subvert that big picture? Does this author support that big picture? So if you're talking about a societal conflict like Civil War, is this author supporting it, challenging it, subverting it? Is this author a proponent? Is this author a leader? How does this author fit into the big picture? Third part should always be your last sentence. Thesis. And that's how you write a really clean intro that focuses on the context and how the author fits into that context without leaving this author to discuss someone else. So if you are doing this for Eleanor Longden, part 1 would have to focus on Western views of mental illness, because that's the big picture, that's the big conflict that she is discussing. Part 2 would be how does Longden fit into the concept of Western views of mental illness? Part 3 would be thesis. You have 4 minutes to write that. Go. Okay, how are you feeling with intro? Doing okay? Maybe. I hope so. Okay, back to the prompts. Because we're doing speed drills, and that means you got to speed through some drills. The Little Prince by French writer, poet, journalist, and pioneering aviator, guy whose name I can't say, is a children's book with adult themes that include loss, grief, loneliness, and finding oneself. In one story, a fox becomes friends with the little traveling prince. The little prince tells the fox about a flower on his planet that he cares about, but the flower is difficult at times. Little Prince then sees a field of identical flowers. I thought my flower was unique in all the universe, he cries in dismay. The fox then helps Little Prince see that his love for his flower makes his one specific flower special. The fox then reveals his secret to life. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Write an essay that argues your position on the extent to which that guy's words about what is essential to life are valid. What kind of an essay are we looking at? This is an argument. Again, they give you the bullet points. You shouldn't need to read them. It essentially comes down to write an essay the way Kennedy taught you to write an essay. This is an argument. That means you have to identify the prompt. Is that guy right that you can only rightly see with your heart, and that anything that is essential or important to life is invisible? Is he right or wrong? 5 minutes to brainstorm, come up with a thesis, come up with a rough outline. Go. Okay, how'd you guys do? Okay, 2 minutes. Discuss what position you took and what evidence you came up with your neighbors. Go.
Is he okay?
Okay, so hopefully you're seeing why we read as many different pieces as we did, because were there some pieces from class that you could pull and make some pretty good arguments with? Yeah, so hopefully you did. This is speed drills, so let's drill away. Remember, once you find your prompt, what are you looking for in your prompt? What are you looking at? Find your prompt, and what do you have to focus on? Ah, thank you. What part of the message do they want you to focus on? Most authors have many messages in their piece. You have to figure out which message they want you to focus on. I'm sure you will not have a problem focusing on the inhumanity of slavery, given the opening chapter of William Wells Brown. 5 minutes, brainstorm, write me a thesis, and decide which 2 rhetorical elements you're going to focus on. Go. Probably going to have to open up William Wells Brown unless you have really good journals. Okay, that's time. Do you have two strong rhetorical choices that you feel like you could make a good essay out of? Good, then you have 4 minutes to write the intro for that essay. Go. Remember your 3 parts. Okay, how did that one feel? Are you getting the swing of the intro on this? Yep, the trick on this is just do not distract yourself from the author you're being asked to write about. If they're asking you to write about William Wells Brown, the only author you should be talking about is Brown. Okay, here's your next one. So you got Oscar Wilde this time. I'm going to let you guys read through the prompt. And then you guys are going to have, I'll give you 6 minutes since you have to read through the prompt. Read through the prompt, find the actual sentence that tells you what it is you're supposed to answer, and then do your outline. Go.